What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for coming to the podcast.
Absolutely.
First timer or no?
Yes, it is.
Oh, wow, you nervous?
No.
Yeah, you're running for office. You can't be nervous to do these things.
It's different experience because usually I have a crowd in front of me, or it's a 101 with no microphones. So the microphone's a little unique.
The hard part about it is like sometimes I've gotten down. I'm like, hey, we probably need to cut that part I've said. You know,
Yeah.
Like it's so funny. You talk for so many hours on these things. It's like sooner or later, like you will slip up.
Sure,
like, you know? That's why people are like, why don't you go live? I'm like, I'm good.
Live is probably not the best idea.
No,
definitely not.
No.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell everyone who you are, man?
I'm Steven Robillard. I am a lifetime resident of Riverside. I am currently a commercial and land realtor in the area. I've been doing that for 10 years, and now I am running for city council in Ward 3.
Ward 3. So why don't you tell people what area that is?
So they just redrew the lines. They're not officially adopted, but right now the way it stands is it starts all the way by Van Buren and Arlington. Includes the airport, kind of runs along the riverbed all the way up to Magnolia Center, goes down along the riverbed all the way up to Ryan Bonaminio Park, and then kind of cuts sharply back up to Magnolia Center, up along Magnolia and Arlington, all the way up to the California School of the Deaf, Victoria Woods area, and then that's where it kind of ends. So it's a really wide.
I was gonna say that's pretty big.
The way they changed the lines, it's not a simple border kind of thing. It's pretty jagged, and there's like random streets.
Why do they change it?
So every 10 years they have the census, and you have to reevaluate your maps to make sure that the goal is that every ward is roughly the same amount of people population wise.
Got it.
And it was nothing. They're still within margins. They're all pretty much roughly the same, but the city council existing right now wanted to have more majority minority districts or wards. So they wanted right before we had 2 that were majority Hispanic, and now we have 5 that are majority Hispanic, and so they wanted better representation for those different demographics.
You know, it's crazy. I don't think 99%, no, maybe not that high. Maybe like 85% of people that live in Riverside even know what ward they live in.
Very few do.
Yeah.
And with city politics, you know, for a long time, it was one of those things that no one really cared about. People usually get caught up in the national stuff. I think with COVID, people realized how much local politics and how much power they have. Those people that you voted in that you not necessarily didn't vote in because you didn't participate.
You didn't pay attention.
They took a lot of control, and these local politics definitely affect your life a lot more than national and statewide politics do.
This show is sponsored by Resilient Real Estate Group, powered by EXP. So, you're thinking about buying and selling soon? Yes, we know you probably know a realtor, your mom's best friend's cousin's neighbor, puts her face on the local shopping cart. But you know what? Our friends at Resilient Real Estate Group have helped hundreds of thousands of people sell houses over the years, and they definitely know what they're doing based on their 5-star review on Google and Zillow. So it doesn't matter if you're looking to buy $1 million house or a fixer-upper, make sure the next time you're thinking about buying and selling real estate, you give our friends a call over at Resilient Real Estate Group. And now we're back to the show. I actually had a lobbyist on 2 weeks ago probably, and he's a lobbyist for realtors, and he was even saying that he's like, when I go to DC, like nothing ever is gonna happen in DC. And he's like, if you go to LA, you go to San Francisco, like those people are pretty locked in. He's like, actually, our area, Riverside, Corona, these are like the Congress people out here and things like that. Like you can actually get things moved out here because they're kind of more moderate or neutral people. So it's like if actually change can happen in this area,
absolutely,
that on the big scale it really can't because there's too many barriers and there's too many peacocking and
I mean, I joined the Chamber of Commerce last week. We went to Sacramento, and we were lobbying our local representatives for different priorities we had in the city, mostly pro growth, pro business kind of things. And my focus was on infrastructure. As everyone knows, that we have pretty bad infrastructure out here, and we're a growing county. We're the second fastest growing region in the nation right now. And while the rest of California lost population, we gained population.
Yeah.
We're gaining about 35,000 people every year. And so expanding our freeway systems, expanding our rail. I mean, we have a lot of freight that comes through the area as well. So our whole infrastructure is barely holding on as it is as we continue to grow. So, I mean, we went to the different politicians and are asking for more money, more funding for our area. And you can kind of get the I don't know, I wish, but infrastructure is not a thing that people get excited about, especially from the rest of the state. If you're going to give money to somebody else, it's not a sexy thing. And what I had to come down to, I learned you have to have leverage. Everyone has you have a way to put things to get things done. And I said, look, we have the LA 2028 Olympics coming up. One of the couple of events we're having at Lake Paris.
Are we?
Yeah,
I know.
Lake Paris is holding a couple of events. They're holding like rowing and a couple other events like that.
There's no other lake closer.
So I was like, how did the Riverside County pull that off? Oh yeah, we needed it at Lake Paris. You know, and maybe it's the facilities around it that are nearby that can support a crowd. Things like that. But everyone's gonna be coming from across the world, and they're not renting cars. They're using infrastructure and using trains and buses and things to get out there, and they're gonna see how bad it is. And that right now, the Metrolink is looking to expand their Marina Valley to Paris line, and so they can have better capacity, have more trains, so that'll help everyday commuters get to LA and Orange County a lot easier. But not only that, when the Olympics do come, they have actually access to get close to Lake Paris, and they'll have like shuttle buses. They'll go from Lake Paris up to the train station. And I said, that's 2028. They have the plans. We have everything ready to go. They just need $55 million to get it done. And so there's a sense of urgency there, and it makes Riverside important to the whole state versus if I just say, hey, we got a lot of traffic problems here, people are like, okay, well, who doesn't have that across the country?
And what's crazy, like $55 million is nothing.
Yes, exactly. When you have the whole budget, $55 million is a very low number to ask, and I'm like, come on, can we just get a little something here?
That's what's I always love that we just throw billions around like it's no big deal, but it's almost we forget like how much money that actually is. Like I was talking to someone the other day, and they're like, I'm like, yeah, we sent $100 billion to this country, we sent $100 billion to that, whatever. I'm like, do you realize how much $100 billion? Like we say it like it's like nothing, like $100 billion, like. You act like it's nothing, but it's like so much money.
It's so frustrating too, because for the longest time, the economies of the Central Valley and the inland communities have been supporting the coastal communities. So we have SB1, which is a tax that we pay every year. Then Measure A is a Riverside County tax, a sales tax that we pay every year. That's supposed to go to infrastructure and road fixes and things like that. And we had a couple of assembly members put bills up that got luckily vetoed last year that wanted to take the funds that are coming out of Riverside County and redirect them to LA and San Francisco to pay for their metro systems that are failing right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're going to take our money that we're raising in our area that's supposed to be for our infrastructure and redirect the coast when they're losing people.
Yeah.
When
we're gaining people.
And so it's one of those things where we're fighting hard to protect that. And, making Riverside and the Inland Empire in general a leader in the region versus kind of just being, oh, whatever the state tells us to do, we'll do that, or whatever LA is doing, we kind of piggyback after them. We've been clumped together as Southern Californians as like we're the LA Metro, and that's a really old-fashioned way of looking at things. And really, the Riverside economy, the Inland Empire economy, is so much different than LA and the coast, and so the time of grouping that together is gone. We need to be leaders in our own way and kind of get to the table first to get the scraps instead of waiting for whatever's left over.
So it's obviously not the sexiest, greatest thing to get into politics, and that's why probably a lot of people don't do it. So what has made you want to jump in from your successful career that you're currently doing and to jump into this?
So I grew up in Riverside. I went to schools in Riverside, graduated from UCR and RCC, and I love my city. I love my community. And when COVID happened, we were all in lockdown, and that was just kind of a scary situation. And then as it kind of kept on going, the lockdown and the quality of life has really started to go downhill. And you're like, is this somewhere we want to live? This is kind of not, this is kind of scary how less freedom we have and things like that. And, we were praying about it. We even visited Tennessee and a couple other states to see if we wanted to even move out there. And we're like, Riverside's our home. This is where we're staying, and it's worth fighting for. And I have an 18-month-old son, and I want him to grow up in a community that he can be proud of, that's safe and welcoming and a thriving community. And the current city council, we had a big shift. I don't know if you're aware. We had 5 city council people retire, and we had 5 new city council people come in at the same time. And so we had a dramatic shift in the Riverside Council makeup. And with that came a lot of policies and decisions that were dramatically different. I would say most of the city council right now is very, left-leaning, woke, almost to that stage where they are pursuing policies that are make them look good nationally and statewide kind of stuff, but have nothing to do with our city. As an example, they passed the banning of gas stoves in new builds. That's something that they're going to be implementing next year. They are trying to have an inclusionary flags outside City Hall. So right now we have, California American flag and Riverside flag. They wanted to have a representative flag for different months, for different groups and minority groups. And unfortunately, I think that's something that divides people. But not only that, every city that has done that so far has been sued because you can't possibly represent every group with that. And they removed the flag poles and ended up paying millions of dollars in the lawsuit. But they decided to go with that anyways. So it's some examples of that. And so I decided, you know what, I can either complain about it or just do something about it. I have a degree in political science from UCR. I've always been interested in politics, and I was praying about it. I've for a long time, I was like praying about the decision. It's going to be a hard thing to do for my family and for my career. Can I balance both? That kind of thing. And I decided to take the step that I did when Ronaldo Friero, the current city councilman, he announced that he was running for state assembly. So it's going to be an open seat. So I saw it as my opportunity. I reached out to some people and started putting together my campaign, and it's been open doors ever since, and it's been going really well. And something that I think definitely I've been called to do.
Nice. I mean, I think the hard part about politics is most people are making a play for a bigger play. And so that's why you always have to wonder, like, okay, well, what is this your next move to try to get to a bigger position?
Yeah, that's what so Ronaldo and Clarissa Cervantes, they both served one term as city council people, and now they're running for state assembly.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like it seemed like, okay, the decisions they're making, why they seem so relevant was they're looking for their career on the state level.
Yeah.
And I think the servant part of public servant has been forgotten in politics, especially in California. And I'm not looking to run for higher office or to make this a career. This is something that I am passionate about our city, and I want to see positive change in our city. And I'm not looking to make decisions that are going to boost my career. I'm looking to make decisions that are going to boost my city.
I think the hard part is that people just don't, it's funny, the whole gas, no more gas stoves. Like, I don't think they realize how much people are going to hate that. Like we work in development. Like, I don't know how many people have walked into my new build project, like, gas stove, right? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, thank God. If it was electric, like, I wouldn't buy. And it's the truth. Like, people don't want that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, people don't like to be forced into things.
Yeah.
They want it. So, I'm a firm believer in the carrot versus the stick. If you had an incentive to build an electric stove or have an electric stove in your house, then okay, maybe that works. And then I get to make the decision that's best for me. But if I'm forced into something and I feel like I'm losing control slowly in this part of my life and this part of my life, and you're telling me what to do, people don't like that. And you can look at history. People don't like to be told what to do. And if you're forcing the issue and it's just little things here, little things there, people are eventually going to get upset about it.
And the hard part, too, is, like, we waste time and money on those topics that don't really affect anyone's life. You know what I mean? Like, cool, we don't use gas now, we use electric. Okay, well, most people don't even want solar on their houses because they don't want the pay, because they can't afford the extra $10,000 or $40,000. That's the other thing, too. It's not like solar's cheap.
Yeah.
Like, our minimum solar's $10,000 on ours, and it's like, I think it'll cover 40% of their power. So they're still gonna have an electric bill on top of the $10,000.
If they're being really conservative with their
you
power.
need like $40,000 units. It's like, okay, well, how many people? I was talking to, I had that lobbyist on. He was saying, I was like, why does these things get passed? And he said the problem is most people who are making the policies are not affected by the outcome of the policy, or they don't have experience in the policies. Like, that's why we send 2,000 realtors up to Sacramento to explain to them. this isn't going to work. I know in theory you think it's going to work, you think it's going to help people, but it's really going to hurt more people because of X, Y, Z. And I was like, well, how does that happen? He's like, well, most people that are writing the policies just got out of college. They probably don't even own housing. I mean, obviously we're in housing, so it's like they don't even own a house. They have no desire to buy a house. They want to live in an apartment. So they don't understand that the policy they're doing is affecting a lot of people.
Yeah, I was at the Fair Housing Council Summit. They had it at the Riverside Convention Center. And they gave away a bunch of free tickets, and it was still half full.
Yeah.
And Mark Takano, our congressman for our area, was there speaking as a guest speaker. And he said, I can relate to how unaffordable housing is. I still live at a rented condo. I never bought a house. And I'm like, you've been in, you're in your 50s now. You've had a long career, making over $2,000 a year for a while now,
and you probably have zero expenses.
And you have zero, everything's paid for you, and you still don't own something. And so it's like, not that, So whenever he makes a decision about affordable housing, he's talking about something that he hasn't personally experienced.
Yes,
exactly. And he's a congressman nationally. A lot of these state representatives. When I was up there in Sacramento, it was like being in college.
Really?
It was exactly like a college dorm room, the whole building. You go up in the building, because right now the actual Capitol building is under renovation for seismic issues. So they have an office building next door. And you go up, there's a common area with a bunch of chairs and everything like that. You have the different hallways where all the assembly members and senators are, and they have their little doors. They have these little posters on their doors about the different things they care about.
Oh, really?
And it's exactly like a college dorm room. And it was so funny, because then all the people that work there are all fresh out of college kids. They're all running around, doing their business and everything. And I'm like, no wonder the policies that come out here sound like exactly like a college classroom, because they're all college kids in a college environment.
And the hard part is life experience and wisdom only comes by experience.
Yeah.
And so you're making these things based on no experience. Like in theory, okay, that might make sense. It's like anyone who goes to college and wants to take entrepreneurship from their professor. If you've never owned an own business and had to make a business decision, and that business decision affects you, your employee, your livelihood, and all those things, how are you supposed to teach someone? You can't teach that person how to do that.
Well, I know so many people look at business owners and they are greedy or whatever. Like, why are they taking so much money? I should be getting a bigger share of the money. And it's like, they're not guaranteed anything.
No.
As a business owner myself, my biggest fear that keeps me up at night is making payroll.
Oh my God.
I worry about that so much.
I worry about payroll before I worry about myself.
Exactly, because these people are depending on you, and you need to be the rock in their life to make, because they absolutely depend on that paycheck every week or every 2 weeks, whatever it is. And as a business owner, that responsibility of being responsible for other people, this livelihood, is something that is not taken lightly. So that's why business owners, when their good years are good, they're reinvesting that money. They're saving that money, because it's not guaranteed.
I always tell people, if there's a loss, does your check change? No, but I'll tell you what, the owner's check changes. Ours is a fluctuating check.
Yes.
Yours is the salary. I try to be very real about, the market has been very hard for the last 18 months. I'm not living the great, we were talking the other day, I'm not trying to get this deal to go buy a Rolex. I'm trying to get this deal to have payroll for 3 months.
Yep.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
And I stay up at night, and you sleep like a baby, because you don't even realize what's going on behind the scenes,
Absolutely.
So for you, when is the election?
So the primary, they changed elections now. So local elections used to be on off years. And so it wouldn't coincide with national or state elections. Now we are in sync with national and state elections.
Which I don't like that, because then people are distracted.
Yeah, so it's a pro and a con thing, because the con was that there wasn't a lot of turnout for local elections. People didn't care, so it was low voter turnout.
Yeah.
So they changed that. So March next year, March 5th is the primary. The problem with that is you're going to have a higher vote turnout, but people aren't caring more about local politics. They're just still turning out for the national and statewide elections. And so right now I'm starting very early for a city council type election.
Yeah.
And part of that being is because there is this competition now with federal and state elections that it's going to be really difficult to get people to care.
To pay attention.
attention.
There's so much noise going to be on.
Yeah, it's going to be Trump and Biden, this
Yeah.
and that, and, it's just going to be nonsense. But so the primary is in March 5th of next year, and if no one gets 50% of the vote, the top 2 vote getters will go to a runoff in November. And so, that's fairly common that you have a runoff. Most if you have more than 2 people, there's usually going to be a runoff. With an open seat, so my seat is going to be an open seat. I know Warren Avery, he's announced that he's running for Ward 3. Raphael, he is Mark Tucano's chief of staff. He got an apartment in our ward and is on a planning commission all of a sudden in our ward. He ran last time against Jim Perry in Ward 6.
You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me.
And lost, but now, so he's trying to now again in Ward 3. So it's part of the Tucano machine. If you're in local politics, he's the most powerful man in local politics right now in our area, and he's they're trying to get every office they can. And so that's going on in our city right now, so people need to be paying attention to a lot more local stuff.
I think I just don't think there's a good source of news for local.
There isn't. So city council is a nonpartisan position. We're not running as Republicans or Democrats, and which is a good thing, because usually city council decisions shouldn't be a partisan thing. It's pretty basic stuff like public safety and
don't increase my parking.
Yeah, exactly. We fought that hard at the Chamber of Commerce. We fought that hard.
Increase my parking.
Yeah, and so issues like that, it shouldn't be a partisan thing. But it has become partisan in recent years just because of how all politics has gotten very polarized. And it's one of those things where people who are pursuing higher office are becoming the more partisan actors in things. And I think moving forward with a couple adjustments, couple of changes on the city council, I think we'll be in a good shape, because you need that balance. You need the push and the pull, the push of the progressive and the pull of the conservative, so that you're not going too far off the edge. Someone's pulling you back, but then you're not progressing and not advancing at all either. So that having that balance is a good thing to have on city council. And, my priorities for, my platform that I'm standing on is, number one, the homelessness issue and public safety. Right now, RPD is short 73 officers in a city of 330,000 people.
Well, and like I remember maybe like 40 years ago, it was like they were talking about the mark coming in, all this stuff coming in. I'm like, okay, well, how many police officers are you going to add to the downtown area if you're having all these more people come in? And the answer was 0. And I'm like, well, how is that going to work?
Yeah, and the Downtown Riverside Partnership was paying for private security for 3 years.
Yeah.
And now that runs out at the end of the month. And we had a lot of people complain about the homeless issue that was happening in Downtown Riverside. They're all over the place. Private security came in, really helped clean that up. But now that's going to go away very soon here, and we're going to see the effects of that. Mm-hmm. And the police is, short-staffed as it is. And I think a big part of that is not a money issue or they're not getting paid well enough or anything like that. I think that is of the environment that we live in California.
Just
where
people don't want to be cops.
Police are very unliked in a lot of situations. And if that was my career, knowing that at any moment I could ruin my life because of one decision that either was bad or maybe on the borderline or whatever, that's something that you can't live with that, And so having a city council that supports the police, that the police know that they have the backing of the city council, are not going to be trashed publicly anytime something happens, that's something that I think they desperately need. I was a RPD cadet for 3 years when I was in college, so I really got to see firsthand what they're dealing with and what our city is dealing with. That most people have no idea what's going on in our city. The levels of crime and the gang activity, the amount of sex offenders that live in our city. You know, when I was a cadet, we saw a guy that was panhandling on Day Street, and we didn't recognize him. So we stopped him, asked him who he was. He's on probation as a sex offender. It just got out, and we said, okay, well, we're going to do a search. Can you take us back to where you're living? He was living in a tent in Sycamore Canyon, right behind Orange Crest Homes. And we searched his tent, and I find the most disgusting things in his tent, you know, just related stuff. And we said, is there anyone else around here? You're here by yourself. I was like, well, I just got out. I'm not allowed in the group, but the group is down in this little ravine area. So we go down there. We round everyone up. There's 32 sex offenders all living together in the Sycamore Canyon right behind Orange Crest houses. And they were all there from Marina Valley Probation.
That's crazy.
Marina Valley was the probation office because they couldn't find housing anywhere because they're on the list.
Yeah.
No one wants to take them in. And so the Marina Valley Probation said, go camp out in Sycamore Canyon. And so they're all living together, all being told to go there. And, you know, that's some people who take their families and go hiking back there all the time.
For sure.
And so that, you know, those issues that our city was facing, it's coming down to, we have laws on the books that are already for these things, but we're not enforcing them.
Yeah.
And part of it is the state level with AB 109. You arrest these people, they end up out the next day, you know, so it's like kind of a pointless chase, but you have to stay active. You have to keep these people moving along. You have to harass the harassers, because a lot of times you hear these quotes from state senators and things like that this is a crisis of the unhoused. That 60% of homeless people are like kids who are in college or moms who have kids that are in between apartments. And while that's true, they are also only homeless for like 2 months.
Oh.
They figure they're in.
They get it.
They
figure
it out. They're in between houses and they're couch surfing or whatever. But then they figure it out. They're only homeless for 2 months. And people, when they think of homeless, they don't think of those people.
No.
They're not the problem. We're not saying that those people are the problem. And affordable housing that's the situation that they're struggling with, because they're families that should be able to afford
the hard part of affordable housing to build in California is not affordable.
Exactly.
So
well, and so that's a separate issue. What we're talking about is the 30% of homeless that are addicted or having a mental health crisis and are causing the problems. Yeah. And that's the problem. And that is, if you look at 30% of the total homeless number, that's the number that is manageable. We can deal with that. And as long as we are enforcing the laws that we already have on books, like the no trespassing law, you can't be camping out on someone's property. You can't be loitering in front of a business and dumping your trash there. If we're enforcing those laws and we're essentially harassing the harassers, is what I call it, they're going to move along and they're not going to cause as much damage to our city. And as far as the bigger issue of dealing with addiction and dealing with the mental health and everything like that, that's a state level and national level thing where we as a city can't handle that on our own. Yeah. You know, that's part of why we went to Sacramento, was ask for funding for more psychiatric beds and rehab villages and things like that. But that's got to be a decision that the country and the state has to make. And as a city councilman, I can only do my small part, you know. But that's my first priority, and Chad Bianco endorsed me and has, you know, as focusing on the public safety thing. Second thing is going to be the infrastructure in our city. As I mentioned before, going to fight for more infrastructure dollars for our city. But I don't know if you're aware, but on Brockton, in the Brockton Arcade, right next to Little Green Onions, and the Kramers, they had a sewer line backup, and then went into Kramers. And went to all those businesses there. And when they dug up the main sewer line in the street, it was sitting like this, not even connected.
Oh, really?
Clay pipes that are laid 80 years ago. They're just not even connected, just dumping raw sewage into our street. And a lot of those businesses there, because if you I don't know if you noticed that, there's a lot of old businesses that have been there forever, and those buildings haven't been really rehabbed.
Redone, no.
And it's a really cool area, and it's a really vibrant area with a lot of history. And you're like, why hasn't it been updated at all? And the reason being is, if any big business, like I said, a big restaurant wants to come in and redevelop the Little Green Onions restaurant, they're gonna have their needs are going to be a lot higher and demands are going to be a lot higher for like water and
Yes.
sewer needs and things like that. When they start doing their investigations, they find out that the sewer and the water pressure is so bad there that they'd have to dig up the whole street and redo everything for the whole area just to get what they need.
Yeah.
And which obviously makes it
Cost
too expensive,
goes up,
you know.
And then those small businesses don't have the money to throw in to.
Well, the land, and it's like 5 different landlords there too. All those buildings are split up into different landlords. It looks like one building, but there's like 5 different owners, and so no one owner is gonna do it by himself. And so the city has to come in and do these things where the city should be responsible for maintaining basic public infrastructure.
Yeah.
We own our own utility company. Why aren't we taking care of this? And so, because if you do that and you want to raise revenue for the city, new businesses coming in, that's how you raise revenue for the city. And they're going to, if you allow them to have that growth by having the infrastructure in place that can support a bigger business, that's how you get bigger business, you know?
How do we not have a big restaurant in downtown Riverside?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why do we not have like a Morton's or something like that, a high-end restaurant in a major downtown area?
Yeah.
That's mind-blowing to me. I mean, I traveled for 10 years, and it didn't matter what city I was in. I could have been in Burlington, Iowa, and in their downtown, they had something.
Yeah.
They had something.
And we had the Mission Inn, and I think that's a big thing for a long time. The Mission Inn was very protective. Oh, yeah. The city is very protective of the Mission Inn to make sure that it
they're
have
happy.
Competition.
Yeah.
And I know when Mario's place went in across the street from the Mission Inn, they weren't happy because they had their own Italian restaurant.
Yes.
But our downtown is now big enough and thriving enough
to support it.
And that's it. The growth, it's not a limited amount of resources and this guy's taking it so I can't have it.
Well, and
we all grow together.
And it's kind of just different. Like going to the Mission Inn is just not for everyone.
Yeah.
I've never eaten at the steakhouse in the Mission Inn. I just have never had a reason to. Like, you know, it's not for everyone. It's like it's like, how are we going to just keep holding on to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're growing, and we're seeing progress, and that's something that I want to continue to see. And, you know, and that's my final issue that I'm running on is being more growth-minded and pro-business in our city. Our new city manager, Mike Trudell, I can't say enough good things about him. He's been fantastic. He's been on the job for like a month and a half now, but he's been really, really proactive in helping business owners in the city who are dealing with problems with the city for years, months, and he comes in and he solves the issue immediately. He's a man of action, a man of getting things done. And same with our new economic director, Mary Beth. She's really on board with trying to grow our city. And what I'm hoping to do is to have, you know, we have a lot of warehousing in our city. We have a lot of small businesses in our city, which is great. But we want to pursue a type of business, a particular type of business that is going to be a big driver of jobs in our city. So whether that be, we have Collins Aerospace off of Arlington, you know, more, you know, flight manufacturing jobs, or we have more, you know, maybe a battery manufacturing or a microchip manufacturer. We got to pick a type of job or a sector, business sector, and pursue it. Because we have, I don't know if you know us, you know, the Joint March Air Powers, they have all that land that was left over from the base, and there's that big chunk of it right in the middle of Orange Crest.
Yes.
All those hills.
Yes.
And they're talking about putting some warehouses up there, and great, we have some more warehouses. But I think that would be prime opportunity to bring in a major manufacturer to our area.
Well, it's like, do we need another Amazon warehouse?
Exactly.
You know, it's like, it was kind of upsetting that the whole, what's that, I went to college up there when I was at RCC. Whatever that base is up there that they do all like the fire and everything. It's like now it's just like full warehouses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then the funny part we're talking about infrastructure is like nothing has changed. I grew up in Orange Crest. Nothing has changed from Orange Crest to the 215 freeway. Nothing. Mm-hmm. But all these more warehouses that have come in.
Yep.
So that's more traffic, and nothing's been changed to the 4-lane, the 2 each way lane highway to get down to the freeway.
Yep.
Nothing has changed.
And we're not building the infrastructure that we need to support our city and to support the changing economy.
Even just fixing the 215-60 interchange. Can we get that dialed in? God dang. When I got to hop off at Alessandro and cut through the back way just to get to downtown.
Yeah, well, exactly. And those are projects that are state and federal funding. And right now we're like, hey, right now we're at Riverside trying to ask for the money from the state, because what happened was when we passed the infrastructure bill, the National Rescue Act that Biden passed, billions and billions and billions of dollars was allocated to different states for infrastructure. Well, the state is the one that distributes that, and we're like, hey, can we get some money over here? Can I get $100 million? Yeah, can we get some money over here? And so it's, as a city councilman, there's I have the limits of what I can
for sure
focus on or I can directly impact. But on the other side of things, as a nonpartisan representative of our city, I can be an advocate at the state level and at the national level to ask for these dollars, to get to know these people who make those decisions. And that's why I was up there in Sacramento, building those relationships with Senator Roth and Bill Asaley and the other representatives, Sabrina Cervantes, and building that relationship so that when I come there every year or every couple of months, they know who I am. Like, yeah, you know what I'm here asking for. Want me to go away? Let's get some stuff done. And because at the end of the day, people want to work with people they like. And if you're some random person they never met,
they don't care.
Why do I care about you?
And they think you're gonna be gone in a year anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's part of the being an advocate for our city.
Yeah. What do you feel if someone's opinion about you is having a job and being in office at the same time, and not someone who fully is 100% in office?
So every city councilman, there is it's not a very good paying job. It's paid like a part-time position. There's nothing in the charter that says it's a part-time or full-time position. It just says this is what the pay is.
Yeah.
If you're doing your job right, it should be a full-time position. And what I think we need, for a long, long time, our city was run by men who with experience, but were all retired, and maybe a little bit out of touch of what the current climate is of doing business in the city and being a younger, family guy, middle class guy in the city. So I think it's good that we have some younger people on the city council right now. I would be representing that. I obviously, as a younger person, being working towards that, but also being in real estate, and this particularly the type of real estate I do, land development. My phone is my office.
Yeah.
I don't hold open houses. It's here. There's some dirt over there. You want to go take a look? And I mean, half my clients I deal with, I've never met in person. It's been over the phone and email the entire time.
Which is crazy because those are the biggest deals.
Yes.
Like. I swear to God, the bigger the deal is, the easier they are.
Yeah, half my clients, sometimes they're on the East Coast, and they're out of LA, Orange County, so they don't like to make the drive out here. So that's why I do have the unique ability in my position to do both. Mm-hmm. And a great example of this was I have a client. They're a major nationwide public apartment builder based out of Orange County. They decided as a company, along with many other companies, they wanted to invest in Riverside, being that Riverside is one of the fastest growing areas in the state. And so they said, okay, we're going to make a move to Riverside. We want to make a big move. We want to work with someone who's local, because honestly, most people, they don't get Riverside. They don't understand the dynamics here, the neighborhoods here. And they don't want to spend millions and millions of dollars without knowing that.
Yeah.
So I met him for lunch, kind of told him about what's going on in the city. And he's been to Riverside a few times to kind of check it out, but he was by himself, And so I said, you know what, can I just take you on a drive for a couple hours and just show you these places that I'm talking about? And so I took him on a drive for a couple hours, showed him the Mount Rubidoux area, the Wood Streets, the UCR area, the North Side. They're having the brand new North Side Pacific Plan. And I'm giving them the history of the city and all this stuff. And at the end of it, I'm dropping him off at his car, and he just says, Steven, I can just tell you really love your city. And I'm like, yeah, I'm passionate about that city. And he said, that's what's so inspiring for me to come to city. I'm going to be a part of the culture here and be part of because Riverside has a unique identity and has unique culture to our city. You look at our downtown, you see the mission, you see the history here. It's not like an Irvine.
Yeah, well, just like the building we're in right now.
Yeah. There's a long history here, and people love being part of that bigger story.
Yeah.
You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, my bag, my bag, my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, my bag, my bag, my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me.
And that's something that people are kind of waking up to. And that's why people are moving here en masse. But I think is something that we need to take advantage of and be, like I said, bigger leaders in our region because we have the ability to. You know?
Well, and it's like, especially for apartment buildings, it's like rent out here and rent in Orange County is not that big of a difference. But
It's
definitely
not.
the land cost is a lot cheaper out here.
Mm-hmm.
So the profit margins, they're starting, I think, finally, because I remember, maybe 15 years ago, Orange County people never went past the 71.
Mm-hmm.
They thought oh, no, I don't go past the 71.
Yep.
I'll maybe go to Corona, but I will not go back to the 50.
15 is like the
border.
zone, yeah.
We don't go, or sells, nothing exists past the 15 freeway. And now, after COVID, it's almost everyone's eyes opened up. It's like, whoa, I could get this for out here for
And I'm
this
only
much
an hour
cost.
away.
And I'm only an hour away. And I don't have to work in the office every day. So I'm only commuting 3 times a week. And I can get an $800,000 house where out in Orange County it would cost me $2 million. Yeah. Or I can have a apartment that's 1,600 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath versus a 700 square foot apartment for the same price. And I think they started realizing holy crap, dang, I can
Yeah.
get this.
Well, and also there's the, I don't know if you know what the rates are for these, like the Mark and then Harbor
dude,
Lives. The rental rates are insane.
The Mark is insane.
And they're filling up.
The prices for the Mark is literally insane.
I can't believe it, but they're being filled up.
Yeah.
And because for the longest time, apartment builders didn't believe that Riverside could support
afford the cost.
those costs.
Yeah.
And they're sure enough, it's showing up that it is. And so, Riverside is an economic powerhouse in this region.
Yeah.
And people kind of were sleeping on it for a really long time. And so I think we're in a very, very crucial point in our city's history right now where we've had a long couple decades of growth. We've been on the right track, growing our city, redeveloping our downtown, transforming the city from a bunch of commuters to actually having jobs in our city. But as we continue to grow, if we're not careful, some mismanagement can make life living here difficult. More people start moving away, and we start going downhill, and that can all happen very fast. And so as a city council, we have to be really focused that we continue to ride this wave of growth and not fall off of it.
Well, I think the hard part, like you said, a lot of people don't know about Riverside, don't know about the culture until they come here and they're with maybe someone like you, that we kind of are behind the 8 ball when it comes to everything west of us. And so we have to do a great job showing people what it can really offer here. But if we screw that up, we're already behind the 8 ball. I mean, I swear, until COVID, I don't think anyone past the 71 would never come to
They
Riverside.
take it seriously.
They never took Riverside. I remember if I'd travel in, I'd be flying into LA, like, oh, where do you live? Oh, Riverside. Like, where? I'm like, yeah, on the IE. And they're like, oh, they never. Just the IE in general blew up during COVID because I think people started realizing. But dude,
They wanted backyards.
a lot of they wanted backyards. But if we misplay and then we become, the thing that I don't get about anything is people are leaving LA and those places because of the politics. So then why are we going to do the politics just like they do it?
Well, the biggest evidence of that is in LA, you have 15% home ownership.
Yeah.
In Riverside, we're around 60%. And if you want people to care about their city and invest in their city and stay in their city, they're going to be homeowners.
Yes.
Renters don't care about their city. They don't care about the apartment they're building in. That's how we want to make sure that, the whole joke that the what's that economic group that meets in Davos every year? You'll own nothing and be happy.
Yeah, be happy.
Like it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you won't. You won't.
Well, I think the hard people out here have good jobs, but they're not. We're not making $500,000 $1 million. That's not who we have out in Riverside. So we know that it's like if they can play their cards right and buy a house and live in a good house in a good neighborhood and maybe even retire in that house. Because I know a lot of people that still live in the same house, and especially like Victoria Woods, Wood Streets. Like they have lived in those houses for
50 years.
50 years.
Yeah.
And now it's paid off and they live in a good community and they can have a good life. And that is what it's all about. Have a good job, own a house, live in that house, retire, have no mortgage, and be able to enjoy your life. Like,
well, that's how you build generational wealth, is through your house.
Yeah, through your house.
And I met with Mannheim. I don't know if you know, they're a big auto auction right behind the airport.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
And, because I was talking with the general manager there, and Chris Brown, and he says, no one came to talk to me. We're the largest auto auction in the state. We hire a couple hundred, we employ a couple hundred people. My painters make $150,000 a year. No one knows we're here.
Isn't that crazy?
And I'm talking to him like, I had no idea you guys were this big. And he's like, yeah, we're huge. And he said, we bought the old Wall Street Journal building, and we have a training program there now where we're teaching and we're training up technicians and staff so we can hire, because we can't find anyone else. No one else is getting trained, so we're training them ourselves. And he says, I'm trying to work with the local schools
100%
and grow this program. I'm like, dude, that is exactly what I'm talking about. As a city councilman, promoting, being the advocate for that growth, because that his standard technician starting pay is like $30 an hour. That's a great paying job,
dude.
And that's way better than working $15 an hour at Amazon, or in a fast food place.
And there's a way to move up in that and make more money.
Yep, exactly. And so supporting those guys, because Riverside had a big manufacturing base, and it disappeared with most of California. But it is coming back, and if we can take advantage of that growth, because manufacturing jobs are finally coming back to our shores, if we can be part of that growth, because we have the space, we have the opportunity, and we have the workforce and the talent here, that could be a huge boon to our city for middle-class jobs in our city. And, I don't know if this is my kind of pie-in-the-sky dream that I wish we could make happen, but the Salton Sea, they finally figured out how to get the lithium out of the water over there, and they're mining a bunch of other minerals. And that lithium, GM and a bunch of other companies are invested heavily over there to get the lithium to build the batteries for all the electric cars that are being made.
Got it.
And they say that Salton Sea by itself is the biggest single source of lithium in the world, and it's by the process of them pulling it out and refining the water there, it's going to clean up the Salton Sea. So it's going to clean up an environmental disaster already. Yeah. So it's a win-win for our area. And that is in our county, a couple hours away. If we have a battery manufacturing plant nearby for GM or any other car maker in our area that will be producing batteries, and that's only going to be growing like crazy in the years to come, in the decades to come, that's my pie in the sky, like city changing, something that can happen in our city that we're in a good place to make happen.
I think people forget that most people just want a good job, a nice house to live in, a good life, have a little bit of money in the pocket,
middle class,
and enjoy their life.
Yeah.
And I think we got away from that.
The Riverside used to be the wealthiest per capita city in the country, back in the Orange Groves days.
Yeah.
And we have that heritage, and now there's a reason why. It wasn't just the climate. It was the location and centrally located, and we had the infrastructure to ship all that citrus. And now there's a reason why all the warehouses are all in our city and are in our region, because we're so centrally located. 40% of all trade that comes in through the Long Beach and the LA port comes through Riverside.
Oh, everyone's passed through Riverside.
Everything comes through Riverside. And we're perfectly located geographically to take advantage of that. And we have the workforce. We have 3 colleges, 1 community college. We have this. It's all there.
That's why, dude, investors are starting to process that, what we have here. And
it takes an advocate that can effectively
speak the language and effectively share the good news that was good in Riverside. Yeah, thank you for the plug. Appreciate that. That's the other thing, dude, knowing how to speak to those people in a way they can understand, where some people just can't.
Yeah.
And then it's two people basically speaking different languages, and they don't even know. They kind of want the same thing, but they don't even know how to communicate it in that way. And luckily for you, I don't know, when talking to business people, which at the end of the day brings value to our community, they speak a different language. They do. And you have to kind of know how to speak that language. Like, people probably maybe watch this podcast, we have real estate people be like, oh, I want to do what he does. It's like, okay, well, do you know how to speak to these people only on the phone?
Yeah.
Only in their way they want to know and how they process things. Like, people want to be like, oh, I want to be you and do all new build and only sell development for the builders. You don't know how to speak to the builders in a way they will understand what you're trying to get to them.
It's the same thing when people are like, I'm going to just be a luxury agent. I'm
Yes.
going to put luxury agent on my Instagram title, and I'm going to post a bunch of pictures of nice houses, and I'm going to be a luxury agent.
That's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, people have asked me, like, why don't you go to the beach? I'm like, I don't know if I speak the language that if a $5 million, $10 million, I don't know what it is, $10 million house out there, I don't know if I speak the language that would work for them.
It's not easy. It's not like selling Sunset.
No.
It's not like that at all. And, I've been doing the business for 10 years. I've been working with my dad. He's been in the business for 40 years. And I have the luxury of kind of accelerating my learning pace by sitting in his office doing his paperwork for him. Yeah. But then hearing the way I learned, though, was he put every single client on speakerphone, and I'd hear every conversation. I'd hear how they talk. And, being a younger guy, when I was 25, 24, talking to these millionaire business owners, and they're like, who's this kid telling me, what I should do or what I shouldn't do or what's a good price for this property? And the way I got past that every time was my knowledge of the area.
Yes.
They said, hey, you know what? Van Buren and King right here, they approved a new sewer line that's going to be coming in, that's going to allow sewer for all these houses, but also all the businesses here that right now State Builders can't expand because they don't have a sewer line, they're on septic tanks. Yeah. And so that little bit of knowledge for that specific area gave them the confidence that I know what I'm talking about.
You're an expert.
And that's exactly it. So it's building that reputation of being an expert in the area. I subscribe to the Press Enterprise. I subscribe to the Rain Cross Gazette because I want to know everything that's going on in my city. I do all the little Facebook pages. I'm always on top of everything, because if you're not in tune with what's going on in the city, then you're not an expert in your city. Yeah. And real estate is so much more than picking out, oh, this is a good window treatment or these are good floors. Yeah, anyone can do that watches HTV. Yeah. It's the knowledge around because I don't sell a product. I'm not a salesman. I am a counselor on people's, usually their biggest investment they'll ever make in their life is their house.
Well, and we're not, I always tell people, you struggle asking for a price drop on one house, try to ask one on 20.
Yeah.
Like I tell people all the time, like you can't even tell someone to ask for a price drop on their one house. I have to talk about 20 houses, and I got to guess what's happening in 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. Try to guess what's happening in 6 months.
Or 2 years. What do you think we're going to be at in 2 years? I don't know.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where that's how you create value.
Yeah. And and if you're right a few times, if exactly what you say comes right a few times, then it's like, okay.
Well, my favorite is when I'm talking numbers with people, and because business people, they want numbers.
They only want numbers.
They want numbers.
They want numbers.
And I'm on the phone with this guy. I'm making the numbers up in my head as I'm talking to them, and I'm like, I hope this is right. And I said, hold on, let me check the numbers real quick, and I'll get on my calculator and do it. And I'm right on. And I'm like, yes, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I do know what I'm talking about.
That's I'll say this about you is you've negotiation and being able to look people in the face when they don't believe you or don't trust is a skill set that takes a lot of work. And I think that is also a problem with certain politics. They're not used to telling people the truth. And it's hard when you're giving people the answers they don't want to hear.
Absolutely. And
not being scared to lose my job, which could happen.
Well, and you got to be confident in the value you provide. And I had a deal. I had to go, this property owner, he's from out of the area. There's building a big apartment complex right next door to this house that's like dilapidated, and they have vagrants living in it. And they don't need it, but it's right at the entrance to their community.
So they want to get rid of it.
So they want to buy it and build a park there or something like that. He was negotiating directly with the corporation that's based in Canada that's building it for a long time. and they gave him a price of $650 is what they finally landed on. He wanted some different terms. It kind of went back and forth, and it kind of fell apart because the corporation, they're from Canada.
They don't care.
They don't care. And he calls me and he asks us, hey, this is, can you, should we sell this separately? What's the best price I can get for this property? And I said, honestly, the best price you're going to get is from that apartment builder because
no one else is going to buy it.
No one wants this property. And they only want it just to make sure their brand new apartment building doesn't look like crap.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, what did they offer you last time? $650. I said, okay, if I can't get you more than $650, you don't owe me a commission.
Yeah.
You deal with them directly. So we go back and forth. We're going back and forth for a couple of months.
And it's crazy. That's how long it takes.
And we went and we ended up back at $650. And I'm like, I tried my best. I couldn't get you more than $650.
Yeah.
I said, you don't owe me anything. If you want to continue with them, you're on your own. You can do it on your own.
Yeah.
If you want me to represent you through all of this, I'll more than happy, but I'm going to charge a 3% commission to be part of this transaction for you. And he said, you know what? I want you on this.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, just because you sign a contract and you're open escrow
doesn't mean nothing.
They can change things. They can renegotiate with you. They can, we found this, or we found that. We need to reduce the price for $50,000.
That's it.
And so I earned my commission because I provided value over months of negotiation. Yeah. And he saw that, okay, this isn't just about the price.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it.
There's way more. You know, I just thought about this about you. What's great also is that you are used to doing things that takes years, and you have the patience to wait through that for the big game where most people don't.
Exactly. The so much of politics and decisions that are made, we think how short-sighted are you?
Yes.
Did you not think it past that? Like, for example, we had a couple years ago, we had a budget surplus at the state, and the state wanted to implement programs. So this means something that is going to happen year over year over year, and it's going to cost more as it goes on.
Which we're not going to have a surplus.
And we're not guaranteed a surplus. Like, why would you do that when next year we're not guaranteed a surplus? And so same with the city. Running the city is a few years ago, we had a bunch of potholes, a bunch of streets that were all messed up. What we decided to do was to create a bond, and then we can fix a bunch of the streets at the same time. And the problem with that is we fixed all those streets, but now we can barely fix the streets now, pay for the fixing the streets now because we're still paying off that bond. Yeah. And so now, as we had this once in a generation winter, we had tons of rain that caused way more damage than we ever would have thought would have happened in 1 year.
For most rain I've ever had in my life here.
Most rain ever, yeah. And now we have an unprecedented amount of damage to our streets, and we are still paying off a bond from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so that short-sightedness is now costing us real money now and real effects now. And so having that long-term thinking is very vital to our city. Yeah.
Well, what's the best way to people contact you, follow you, stay up to date with you, whatever?
So I have my website. It's Robillard, 4cc.com. So Robillard 4 City Council. That's my website. I am on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Same thing, Robillard 4cc. I have my personal page, Steven Robillard. If you Google my name, my business will pop up. If you Google Steven Robillard City Council, my city council stuff will pop up.
Boy.
Either way will pop up on the top of Google, and my phone number's out there. Anyone can reach out to me. I'm a broker, and I answer my phone,
Nice.
And so
Most
city council, well, exactly. That's what we stand. That's what we try to make our business about is we answer the phone because I live and die by my phone. If I don't answer the call, nothing happens. So,
I agree with that, man. So thank you for your time. Appreciate you. So March
5th.
March 5th.
2024.
2024. Mm-hmm. Go out, vote. People don't realize these are the people that are actually going to change your life, not the people in the big day.
And it's an expensive campaign is expensive, and I don't want to be beholden to a few special interests. I'd rather have, so far it's been all support by local people, personal donations, very few business donations, no unions or anything like that. It's all local stuff.
Got it.
And if people want to have politicians that care about them, those local donations is how we get to that number and how we win and have a city councilman that is supporting you and not a special interest.
Do you have any events coming up?
July 12th.
July
is my
12th.
fundraiser.
Okay.
It's going to be at the Riverside Airport Cafe. It's going to be right there on the so in my ward, in Ward 3, viewing the mountains and the.
You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. I'm in my bag, got my eyes on the price. You know I can waste no time, cause I gotta keep it tight. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me. Give me the bass, give me the beat. I'm in my bag, this round is on me.
Airplanes there, and Sheriff Bianco is going to be a guest there as well, and we're hoping to have a big turnout. And if you want to come meet me, that'd be a great place to come meet me. And it's
So
July
is there a price
12th.
to get in?
There will be a price to get in. We'll announce that. I'm going to be doing coffees too, just in the local area. I'm going to say, I'm going to post up this coffee shop for a couple hours.
Got it.
I'll be out there. You can come meet me there. And I'm just trying to right now hear from the people, meet with as many people as I can, because every part of Riverside has its unique issues and problems, and I think I'm pretty plugged into that.
Yeah.
But unless I live there, people have a lot, more detail for
Is
that.
Ward 3 where the new Stater Brothers?
It is.
Dude, that came out beautiful.
Yeah, and there's gonna be a new Chick-fil-A there too.
Yeah.
And
That came out beautiful.
Yeah.
If that's not a perfect example why we need people investing in Riverside, that was a homeless encampment, and that place is beautiful now.
and Sears is in my ward, the old Sears.
Oh, we got to get rid of that.
Yeah,
What do you want to do with that?
So there's a group that's bought it. They had plans for it. They want to build a bunch of they want to put an Aldi in, a couple other retail stuff on the front, and a bunch of residential units in the back, but it's in the pathway of the Riverside Airport.
Oh,
So there's a restriction. There's not really the height is not really the problem. It's density.
Oh.
You can't have too many people that close together in the path of the airplanes. So we're working with, I know they are. I'm not part of it. They're working with the city and the airport to try to see what the best way they can deal with it is. Yeah. I'm pro growth. I want to see that redeveloped as soon as possible.
That needs to be knocked down immediately.
But I'm hopeful that will be a big game changer to the area once it finally gets the approval.
That is an eyesore.
Absolutely.
And it's crazy to think that was how we used to do. I remember walking to that Sears when I was a kid. That thing, and then they had the basement.
Mm-hmm. And they had all those auto repair on the back and everything.
Yeah. That place. If you could change an area so quickly.
That whole community, hasn't been developed in 50 years.
Yes.
And you have that tiny little shopping center across the street, which is trying to do its best to hang on it. And you see, it's pretty nice, but you get some turnover there. But if you brought in, a brand new development of that size to that area, that would completely change the neighborhood. People's property values go up.
If you could turn that into maybe like a plaza, like a central. I mean, even Central Plaza was a great example. I mean, that was a mall when we were kids, and then it was a ghost town, and they destroy it. And now look what it is.
Yeah, and nowadays you got to be more residential heavy because the brick and mortar store is going by the wayside. Mm-hmm. The plaza right now is an example. It's 90% restaurants.
Yeah,
because retail can't really handle it there. And so I think they're doing a good job of minimizing the retail at the front and just having an Aldi grocery store goes to need a grocery store, having a couple of little restaurants or a little retail spot, but mostly being residential because we need housing.
Yeah.
And retail is just going to be another dying retail center.
Do you like the shops below and housing on top? Do you like that model?
I do like that model. I think it's very specific to certain areas because it creates the whole point of that is to have the walkability, people walking back and forth. And Riverside's a very driven car focused area. Yeah. People need parking, and so I like the idea of that. I think that works in very specific areas. I think for most places, it's not a good idea.
Yeah.
I think the downtown corridor definitely makes sense there. I think the only other place that might make sense would be in the future, the Galleria at Tyler, because it's a mall. It's doing good. I pray that it stays open, but it probably won't be open forever. It's gonna go the way of every other
who
mall.
would ever thought
Nordstrom's will leave. Macy's is gonna be next.
Yeah. J.C. Penney's has to go.
J.C. Penney, and so that whole area is gonna have to be redeveloped, and that'd be a perfect area to put a walking community, because you can has to be all done at once. Because if you build, 20 units in a row,
not enough.
No one's gonna be walking that.
And they're close to the train station.
Yeah.
So that would be kind of more the people that would be going commuting.
You're right next to the freeway.
Right next
people
to the freeway.
People are already used to coming there and then walking.
Yeah.
It's got all those restaurants there.
So it's Castle Park still hanging on.
Castle Park's another one, and I think honestly the Magnolia corridor, especially right there next to Magnolia and Van Buren, you have all those those big trees, and you have all those small buildings. It would take a huge project to make happen.
Yeah.
But I think that'd be really cool to bring back our Magnolia as our main drag, in our area. And it's just, you have to think long term. You have to zone for it. You have to plan for it, and you have to create good planning that supports it, and have the patience to do it right, and not to try to force something and
rush it.
Yeah,
and force it to what the people here want.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You have to be responsible to the people and responsive to them. And people are gonna live and do what they want, and you can't force them to do anything. If you have this specific idea and it's not what they're looking for, let go of that idea. Yeah. It's not gonna work.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Appreciate your time. July 12th. Go check him out. Go say hello. Go shake your hand, especially if you live in his area. Just remember, if you like him and you know people living in the area, tell him to go out and vote, because if he's on there, he can help you pull more things for the city. So if you know people that live in Ward 3, tell them to get on the ballot. Tell them to start pushing some things, because the more people we have on the growth of Riverside and focusing on growth, I think is, obviously I'm a growth mind guy too. Like, that's only better for the city.
Absolutely.
City of Riverside, I'll tell you this, you got to find reasons to keep people here.
Mm-hmm.
Because the young, how old are you?
I'm 32.
Okay, so I'm 36. Like, a lot of people when you're in high school, like I'm going to Orange County, I'm going to LA, whatever. You give people reasons to stay, they'll stay.
Absolutely.
And I think that's kind of the thing that we got to work on.
Yep.
Is
absolutely.
making people want to stay. So thank you for your time, man. I appreciate you. Go follow him. Go subscribe. Go to his events. And until next time, guys, peace.